In Egypt's sands, one king was not merely forgotten, he was deliberately erased. His name was Akhenaten, the pharaoh history remembered only through ruins and questions. He challenged priests, rejected old gods, and raised one blazing sun above them all.
Subscribe for more incredible stories from the world of ancient Egypt.
Before him, Egypt stood rich and powerful beneath the watch of many ancient gods. The temples of Amun were not only sacred, they were engines of power and wealth. He was born Amenhotep, a prince raised inside the brilliance of Egypt's imperial age. His father ruled an empire at its height, dazzling allies and commanding distant lands. At court stood powerful figures too, including his formidable mother, Queen T. Somewhere in this world, the young prince began to imagine Egypt differently. When he became pharaoh, Egypt expected continuity. Instead, it received a revolution. Beside him stood Nefertiti, radiant, intelligent, and destined to shape the same upheaval. At first, the change seemed subtle, a growing devotion to Aten, the visible sun disk. But what began as devotion soon hardened into something far more radical. He changed his name to Akhenaten, effective for Aten, servant of the sun. Then came the unthinkable. The old gods, especially Amun, were pushed aside. Temples closed, rituals stopped, and generations of sacred tradition were suddenly interrupted. Akhenaten went further still. He ordered an entirely new capital built in the desert. He called it Akhenaten, Horizon of Aten, a city devoted to one god alone. From empty sand rose palaces, workshops, avenues, and temples flooded with. Here, worship happened beneath open sky. Nothing stood between the people and the sun. And at the center stood the royal family, almost as living intermediaries of divine light. Even art transformed. Kings and queens were no longer distant icons, but vividly human. Akhenaten's image itself became strange, elongated, symbolic, and still deeply debated today. Was it realism, symbolism, or theology? No single answer has ended the debate. In Amarna art, the royal household seemed startlingly intimate, warm, and almost modern. Nefertiti was no shadow. In this new order, her presence was unmistakably powerful. For a time, Akhenaten truly lived, a shining city built around one extraordinary idea. But did ordinary Egyptians share his faith or simply obey the throne? Every revolution has a cost, and Akhenaten's struck at wealth, tradition, and identity. While Akhenaten focused on worship, Egypt's empire may have begun to fray at the edges. Letters from abroad begged for help, revealing a king increasingly absorbed by his own vision. Visionary or isolated dreamer, Akhenaten seemed to stand increasingly apart from his world. Tragedy may also have entered the palace as some royal daughters disappeared from the... Some historians suspect disease haunted this age, deepening the instability around Akhenaten's. Then even Nefertiti becomes elusive, vanishing from clear view near the reign's end. A shadowy co-ruler may have emerged, but the evidence remains frustratingly unclear. Akhenaten died after a turbulent reign, leaving his revolution unfinished and dangerously exposed. After him came a child king, born into a kingdom divided by faith and fear. Very quickly, Egypt turned back. The old temples reopened and the old gods returned. Even the young king's name changed, turning away from Aten and back toward Amen. Akhenaten was left behind, its bright experiment collapsing back into the desert. The backlash was ruthless. Akhenaten's monuments were broken, and his memory was attacked. His temples were dismantled block by block, their stones buried inside. Later king lists tried to skip him entirely, as if the heretic pharaoh never ruled. For centuries, his city slept in silence, nearly lost beneath wind, dust. Then archaeology began to uncover what Egypt had once tried so hard to hide. Among the finds was Nefertiti's face, preserved with a beauty that stunned the world. From broken fragments, scholars slowly rebuilt the outline of his extraordinary religious. Some call him history's first monotheist, a ruler reaching toward a single universal God. Others argue it was not true monotheism, but a royal cult centered on Akhenaten himself. Was he a spiritual visionary or a ruler whose obsession destabilized an empire? Even his burial remains uncertain, wrapped in damaged tombs, missing mummies, and speculation. We still cannot say with confidence which remains, if any, truly belonged to Akhenaten. Because his short reign asks timeless questions about truth, power, faith, and the cost. Akhenaten's city is gone, yet his unanswered questions still burn beneath the Egyptian sun.